Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to keep your domain healthy. If you've noticed issues with your emails going to spam, if you're sending emails to someone that are saying, hey, your email got sent to my spam folder or it just didn't show up at all, it's likely that there's an issue with the health of your domain. And there's a lot of factors that go into this, and it's a lot of stuff that a lot of website owners and business owners are probably not aware of this, of why their emails are going to spam and why they have issues with like websites loading. Now, emails and websites here, as it relates to emails going to spam, emails and websites are related because if you host a website and there's issues with the website, that can also affect the reputation of your domain, which in turn affects your emails. So let's go ahead and cover the website issues first, because this is going to be the fastest section to get through, and then we're going to cover the stuff with email specifically. For the people that this affects, if you have a custom domain, if you own a website, if you have a custom domain that you're sending out emails with, if you are a business owner, or if you oversee a domain or some sort of a marketing operation within a business, this video applies to you. And also if you are in IT, like you're looking to get into IT, because some of the people watching my channel want to get into IT, like if you want to be a system administrator, this is all stuff that you need to know. For anyone else that's watching, feel free to go ahead and watch, because as always, there's going to be a lot of stuff to cover with this video. Try to make sure that everyone that watches my videos walks away learning something. So let's talk about the first issue as it relates to websites. Now, one of the issues that I see with a lot of websites that I come across, stuff that I've worked on and stuff that I've gone and looked at for other people, is that a lot of times these links get put on these websites, but there's no work that goes into vetting them or maintaining them. So there's a couple different issues that come up here. The first thing, as far as maintaining links go, you do not want links that go over to domains or websites that are expired, because the issue with that, and a lot of bad actors have caught on to that, they've been doing this for years, by the way, this is certainly not something new, is that if you let a domain expire, and especially if it has enough popularity, what will happen is one of these bad actors will go get that domain, and then they go and start posting some sort of malware or some other kind of issue on there. So for example, actually what I'll just go ahead and do is pull up this article here so we can read about this real quick. So this happened back in the summer of 2015. And what happened was Heinz let a domain expire. Now this domain, they put a QR code on their ketchup bottles, that when you scan the QR code, it went to a website that Heinz was using as part of a marketing campaign. Now what happened is, so it's this sagsmithheinz.de here. What they did is they let the domain expire. So someone went ahead and bought that domain, and then they hosted porn on there, which then people were scanning that, and it caused a huge debacle for Heinz back when this first happened, because people were like, hey, why the hell are your ketchup bottles, when we scan these QR codes, why are we being redirected to a porn site? Now what happened there was they did not maintain that domain. But the thing is, so if you have a website, let's say you link over to another website that you think is helpful, you need to go back and be checking these domains every now and then, every few months, let's say every 3 to 6 months or so, and make sure that the person on that website is doing things that they're supposed to be doing. So that means that they're not hosting anything questionable on there, that the domain hasn't been taken over by some bad actor or anything of that nature. And if the domain is expired but nothing's being done with it, definitely just go ahead and make sure you get it off of there, because eventually someone will take it over, and you don't want to be redirecting people to a malware domain. And then as far as vetting links, again, what this is, kind of like when you're maintaining links, before you even put a link on your website, you need to make sure that the link is good. You need to go, again, make sure that there's nothing questionable going on with the website. So there's a due process or due diligence that needs to go into designing a website and putting links on there to other resources. Now, as far as affiliates, there's a couple of different ways that your domain can be affected with affiliates. So first of all, if you have any bad associations, it's going to damage your domain. What I mean by that is let's say you take an affiliate deal with someone, you have a website or a blog, and you have an affiliate link to go to someone else's website where people can go buy things, and you get a percentage of that because they clicked on a link. Now, if anyone is selling anything questionable through there, let's say some sort of illegal or potentially illegal item, that can affect your domain. Now, it can also affect you from the email aspect. So let's say that you are sending out emails or your website has links that are associated with a bad affiliate. So let's say you go to send out an email and you have an affiliate link in there, but that affiliate is known for sending out spam emails. Now you get caught up in there because now they're going to think, okay, well, this affiliate sends out spam emails and this person is sending out emails and they are associated with this company. That damages the health of your domain, and it could potentially get your emails sent into the spam folder. The next thing, ad networks. You got to be really, really careful with this stuff. And the issue is that this even affects Google. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to go try to put ads on a website or a blog, they really are not worth pursuing. Number one, people are getting pissed off with the amount of ads that are all over the internet. Number two, if you try to paywall people because they're like, well, if they're going to block ads, then I'm going to do a pop-up that says you have to turn off ad block or I'm going to paywall it. That's going to destroy traffic to your website. It's a terrible idea. And the fact is that some of these ad networks are just pure garbage. And the thing is, if you end up getting associated with a bad network, it absolutely, if it's a bad network and they are serving malicious ads, it's going to affect your domain. Now, the thing is here, I made this video a little while back. I'm going to link two videos below because they're both relevant to this video. The first one is the big email changes for 2024. The cold email outreach that goes really in depth on setting up the email security side of things that I'm going to cover here in just a little bit. And then I also made this video talking about malvertising, how ads can give you viruses. Both of those will be linked down in the description so you can learn more about that stuff. But what this is malvertising. Now, the thing is, even Google gets caught up with this sometimes, and every once in a while. The last thing I saw was a couple months ago, so Google is still dealing with this issue. And Google has a lot more checks and balances in place than something like some small ad network. Now, the thing is one of these networks, if you get enough traffic to your website, you might have one of these networks approach you and say, hey, we will give you, instead of you using Google Ads, the AdSense, we will show, if you want to, we will show our ads on your platform and we will give you a higher cut of what the links are that people click on. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is not worth the time, the effort, the headache that goes into having to constantly evaluate and make sure that they are not allowing malvertising on their platform. So again, if you want to learn more about malvertising, I'll drop that link down in the description so you can go check that out. The next thing is threat intelligence sources. Now, if you have any issues with your website, where let's say you have links on your website that go to a malware site, or you unknowingly host some sort of malware on your website, or let's say you're using WordPress and your WordPress install has been hijacked, which is very common with WordPress, by the way. It is an absolute pain in the ass of a platform to work with. You have to set up security way differently than you do for some of these other platforms. If someone takes over and compromises your website and you don't know about it and they are doing malicious redirects, anything of that nature, what will happen is you will get caught by one of these threat intelligence providers. All it takes is for one person to click on a link on your website and they go to an infected website and the antivirus picks it up. Now samples are being sent off to something like Kaspersky or Bitdefender, and now your domain has been added to a block list from one of these threat intelligence sources, and then they distribute this block list to millions upon millions of different devices and these sources. So the OISD block list is an example of it's a pretty commonly used threat intelligence source. So it's just not worth having your website, trying to do this stuff with your website, any of this weird working with one of these small ad networks or anything like that. It's not worth the trouble. And then the last thing, this isn't going to be an issue for the vast majority of people. It can catch some people, but it's not going to be something huge. So there's this thing called NRDs, which is newly registered domains. So for example, if you go and use a service like DNS0, if the domain was registered within the last 30 days, it will block access to that website. Now, also on the email side of things with newly registered domains, if you are going and sending out, I'll cover this more in the email section here pretty soon. If you're going and sending out a bunch of emails from a newly registered domain, that's almost always a red flag, and it will almost always destroy the reputation of your domain as soon as you register it if you're going to go out and start sending out a bunch of emails. There are specific processes that need to be followed with emails, which I'm going to start covering right now. So there's three big things with email. If you cover these three things, everything else is just a matter of getting practices to what you need to do to be on the lookout for. Now there's three different things. These are DNS records that you need to set up from your domain host, your domain provider. Now the first one is SPF, which is Sender Policy Framework, and then DMARC, which is Domain Message Authentication Reporting and Compliance, and then DKIM, which is Domain Keys Identified Mail, or something to that effect. These used to be optional. As of this year, Google and Yahoo have made these required. And the thing is, it's best practice to set these up, because if you do not set these up, what can happen is somebody can spoof your emails. Now, if someone is able to spoof your business, let's say you're using cold email to grow your business, you're sending out cold emails to customers, but you have not set up these three records here, and someone spoofs your email. What they can do is they can basically step in, send out these emails with malicious links, then your customers get hacked, and it creates a huge legal mess for your company to have to deal with and clean up. So make sure that these, I know a lot of small businesses, there's a lot of IT stuff that goes into it. If you've never contracted with an IT company before and you're not sure about this stuff, this is part of doing business. This needs to be done. This is not an option anymore. Now, Google and Yahoo made this a mandatory thing as of this year, and starting April, I think it's April 1st, which by the time this video goes live, this will already be getting enforced. We'll cover an article here on this in just a moment. Is that this needs to be set, or your emails are going to be rejected, either sent to spam or just rejected completely. Now, one thing is when Google, now you can find this in the video that I'm going to link down in the description on the cold email changes that are coming, as far as like cutting down on spam messages. DMARC is optional for domains that send less than 5,000 emails per day. But the thing is, it's just good practice to go ahead and get there. It's just good business practices to get that done, to add that to your DNS records. It only takes a couple of minutes once it's done. And the other thing is, now, if you send 5,000 emails or more in just one day, it could be one day out of the entire year that you do it, you are forever marked as a bulk sender. And so if you have just one day where you do that, you don't have your DMARC policy set up, well, boom, now your domain is going to be damaged. If you don't know how to do it, you're going to have to pull up some YouTube videos, or you need to contract with an IT service to get this done. It's not an option. It's not super complicated though. It doesn't take that long. Let me just go ahead and show this to you here. So it might look a little bit different depending on the domain provider that you have. So GoDaddy or Google or whoever, there's a bunch of different domain providers out there. When you go and add DNS records, when you're going and adding these records, you'll see these different fields show up here. So I'll just go ahead and pull up these sections here. So when you're doing this, what you'll have to do is go into your DNS settings for your domain and add these different DNS records. Now you'll see different options over here that will be typically a drop-down menu. So you'll have different names for these, like CNAME or TXT. Whatever you need to add, the service will tell you what it is. So when you go to set up Google SPF or DMARC or whatever, they will tell you specifically what you need to put here. This next thing here, so this next field is going to be, typically you'll either use a period, or you can leave it blank, or you can put @ That means that is the root of your domain. So root would be google.com, and then you can do subdomains, which I'm not going to get into subdomains on this video, but let's say this was mail.google.com. That would be an indication that it is a subdomain. So if you have like an @ here, then that would be so that would signify that, hey, this is for the root domain. Then what you're going to do is copy whatever this field is. So if you're on Yahoo, if you're on Proton Mail, if you're on Microsoft Exchange, if you use Google Workspace, this will vary a little bit depending on who it is that you are using for your email provider. So just make sure that you reference that specifically. If this is too much for you, then you need to talk to an IT department or like an IT contracting service. And you'll have to add different fields. So you'll have to do a record for SPF, you'll have to do one for DMARC, and then you have to do one for DKIM. Now, DKIM is going to give you a unique key, a unique string to just use. So make sure you don't give that out to anyone, don't reveal it. Otherwise, that could be an issue if someone got a hold of that. Now, as far as your DMARC string, so let's say you want to use DMARC, which, like I said, if you're going to send over 5,000 emails a day, you have to do this. But if you're sending under, you should still set it up anyway. This version equals DMARC1. This always has to be there. The P means what happens to the emails that do not meet the proper ways of having the email authenticated. So you can do a few different things here. You can either have none. Now, if you put none in here, it means that the email is going to be sent to your inbox anyway. Quarantine means that it's going to be sent to your spam folder. And reject means that it just won't even allow the message to come through at all. Now, the last two are the most important. That's mostly because Google and Yahoo have partnered up. And if you have more than a 0.1% of your emails getting sent to the spam folder, which means 1 in 1,000, that means the health of your domain gets negatively affected. Or you can also over here, so you can set this to 1 to 100. So you could set it to, let's say, reject 50%. So you set this to reject 50%. If you leave this blank or you don't fill this in, it just defaults to 100. Then there's an SP option that you can add into this long string here. And if you add SP, what it will do, that is applicable to subdomains, but I'm not going to get into subdomains on this. It goes out of the scope of the video. And then you have your ADKIM and your ASPF settings here. So next thing is your emails, meaning, so your email, so let's say you set up a custom domain and you want to use it to send out emails. What you have to do, this is not an option, you have to warm up your emails. Now there's actually quite a few different options that are available out there. I wouldn't say one's necessarily better than the other, just pick one and go with it. What you'll have to do with this is you have to run this for a few months. Now these guys, if you go on here, what you're looking at, Snob.io does a whole bunch of stuff besides email warmup, but you can just use it for email warmup if you want to. This is basically, I think the reason that this is done is a litmus test to help filter out a lot of spammers. It won't catch everyone, but a lot of people that want to use this to scam and spam people are going to go and register something because it's a really low cost, low barrier to entry, but having to spend a few months to properly warm up an email is something that a lot of these turds are not willing to go through. And so like I said, it does take a little bit of time. Typically you want to warm up for 2 to 3 months. You could get away with 1 month of warm up, but your domain is not going to be optimal at that point. 2 to 3 months is really good. There's going to be a ramp up. So when I say follow the best practices, follow the ramp up suggestion that the platform gives. Typically what they will say is they will give you an option to say, hey, we recommend that our service sends 2 emails for you, and then you get 2 emails back, and then we increase it by 1 to 2 emails every day until you are sending and receiving 40, let's say 40 to 50 emails every day. The reason that, like I said, so the reason that this is needed is because it helps show that the domain is legit and that you're not just trying to rush in here to start spamming people. So like Google, for example, if you don't warm up an email address and you just go to try to start sending out marketing or sales emails right away, Google flags that because they're like, these people are going to make our service look bad. They're using our service to abuse our other customers. We're not going to allow that. We're just going to send these emails straight to spam. Then we're just going to add them to a block list right away and wash our hands of this. So what these warm-up services do is other people that join these warm-up services is they are a set of automated emails that get sent to and from you and these other users that use these warm-up platforms. So it's really good. It's automated, so it saves a ton of effort. Now what you can do is you can come in and do this manually. You can have 10 or 20 people that you're manually emailing. The thing is they need to be able to email you back, and there needs to be this conversation chain that starts going. Email warm-up takes care of all that. If you try to do this, I'm telling you, it's better to just spend the $50 a month Spend that for a few months to warm up your email, then try to screw around with this and waste a bunch of time. Now, the next thing, I'll show you this here in just a little bit because I'm going to give you a few tools to help you monitor and manage this stuff. You get an IP address with your domain. So when you send out emails, you have an IP that's assigned to that. So along with the domain, you can also get your IP address added to block lists, which will also send your emails into spam. Again, I'll show you that here in just a little bit. Now, the thing I'm going to say is don't try to fool the algorithm. I know there's a lot of people that think they can come onto these platforms and outsmart everyone. And, well, we can just use a VPN and switch our country or switch over to this different location, and we can sign up with 10 different emails and log in through a VPN, send emails through this email address, and then switch VPN locations, and then log into this email and do this. They already know about all that stuff. Now, people have done this for a while, and the thing is Google knows that it is you that's doing it. If you haven't been blocked for doing that, the reason is that Google just doesn't care enough to do anything. Maybe you just haven't hit certain milestones or parameters that they looked at and say, you know what, this person's sending a bunch of spam, we're just going to block their accounts. It's one of those black hat techniques that people think is going to work. They think they're going to fool the algorithm. I can tell you, and anyone in here that's watching this video that's been in IT for a while knows that not only are these algorithms really good, there's also a lot of data points that are set up to collect a bunch of info. They already know that it's you, and they piece it together through a bunch of different things. One of those being your browser fingerprint. The other is contact info. If you try to set up 10 different email addresses because you think, well, I'll send, let's say, 50 different emails per day from each email address, they already know that it's you. But also, you're signing up with the same contact info, and if you try to set this up enough, anyone that's done this before will tell you that they've ran into this issue. I have ran into this as well. Once you have set up a couple of accounts, when you try to set up a subsequent one, it will trigger some sort of a fraud alert, and then Google will say, hey, we need to verify your identity because we've noticed some suspicious activity. Basically, if you're trying to game the system, they know when it is that you're trying to do it. If you're on the platform to do legitimate business, you're not going to run into issues. Now, the next thing, so I've already talked about the anything more than 1 in 1,000 being sent to spam is a problem that's going to affect your email domains or your domain reputation. What this comes down to is people now have to start writing better emails. And it's a good thing that Google and Yahoo have finally got around to making this change. I'm sure Microsoft, if they haven't already, they're going to be following suit soon through their ability to host and send emails. Is people are just getting fed up with all of this spam garbage that's being sent to their inbox. And this came about as a result of people that could not be bothered to do this the right way. Now, what this means is that no more template emails unless you're willing to set up and spend money to set up new emails and new domains constantly. That means you're going to have to stop sending out template domains or template emails. If you aren't already sending emails, this is not an issue for you. It just means that you're going to have to personalize your emails, unless the one way around this is if someone gives you explicit permission to send marketing emails. That's the only case where sending out things like template style emails is going to be acceptable. Now, you'll want to make sure that you're using a spam checker when you're doing cold emails. And again, I'm going to show you some tools here pretty soon that is going to cover that. So we'll get to that here in just a second. Now, the thing so custom cold emails are okay to use. I know if you're running a business, or if you're doing marketing operations, or you're doing sales inside of an organization, you're very likely, you heavily rely on using cold emails to bring business. Now, what this means is, and I'm not going to go through this a big whole thing here because it would go out of the scope of this video. I could make a video on how to write better emails at some other point. You don't want to put people on a list without permission. Now, the thing is even though this is illegal, it's one of those things that doesn't really get enforced because it happens so much. But the thing is that you will get added to block lists, and now your email is destroyed. Your domain is destroyed. Now, mass emails can and do work. There's a lot of people that have used this with success. People still do it, and they're still going to do it. But it's just now there's going to be a lot more of a hurdle to clear in order to be able to do this stuff. Now, if you're going to send out cold emails to try to send to a prospect, to try to get a deal with somebody, If they are custom, if they are personalized, then that is okay. It's not going to hurt your domain because the algorithm, again, it goes back to the algorithm. The algorithm knows when you're sending templated emails or if you are actually writing a legitimate email one-on-one with somebody. And I get it. We've all been there. I've done it myself, sending out templated emails because it's just the path of least resistance. But the thing is it, like I said, it damages the domain. But it also looks pretty sloppy. If someone starts getting emails from you out of nowhere and all you're doing is sending template emails, it's a really piss poor look to have that. And people look at that and they're like, well, this person is a joke there. I just got caught up in some email list and now they're blasting me with all these when they're doing it to 1,000 other people. Now, I'm just going to read off a couple of examples of how not to do cold email messaging, because I am getting a lot of these emails. I've been getting these emails for a long time. They come in a bunch of different forms, but here's just a couple that are just they suck. So this one says, "Hello, Ken," which, by the way, when you're writing emails, you don't need to use hello. That's considered a formal greeting. If you're trying to contact someone to sell them something, you're trying to establish a long-term relationship, most likely, unless it's just a one-off product. But any good business should be doing subsequent follow-ups with their customers and continuing to do business on a long-term basis. You don't need to be formal about this. If you're going to establish a business relationship with someone, it should be there for a long time. It says you've probably discovered that finding the best influencers for your company is massively time-consuming. At our media company, we utilize a unique method to identify the most relevant influencers for you. This involves analyzing influencer content, reviewing their social channel, blog analytics, etc., blah, blah, blah. We then give you a report on the best influencers for your campaign. We can then activate the entire campaign for your strategy, influencer contracting, etc. Would you like to explore ways to work together? Just click here. Now, the thing is, so I got put in this as a mass email with a bunch of other people. This person that is sending me this, which is the owner of the company, by the way, did no research into my company and what I do, and they just decided, hey, I'm going to go ahead and send this email. This does not apply to me whatsoever. And these emails have been going straight to my spam folder. There's a lot of issues with this email here. Here's another example. I get a ton of these emails. It says, "Hi, Ken. Are you looking to drive more traffic and conversions with your digital campaigns? From programmatic CTV, OTT to paid search, we offer several solutions to help streamline your workflows and reduce costs." And then they give a link. It says, "Schedule some time on my calendar or give me a call at this phone number to learn more." And they're the VP of product growth. Again, this is a terrible email. I got put into a list with a bunch of other people. I do not need anyone to try to drive more traffic for me with digital campaigns. I'm well aware of how digital advertisements work. This was a person who did absolutely no research on what it is that I do, and they have done nothing more than damage their domain reputation by sending this email. So what I'm saying is, and again, I'll do a video on emails at some other point. It'll probably be a while down the road. Don't send emails like that. Talk to people like they are people and do the proper research. I would not go send a cold email to a company offering them some sort of service that that it's just not a good fit. Why would I do that? It doesn't make sense. Now let's cover some of these custom tools that I talked about. Also, one other thing I'm going to show you as it relates to these changes that are coming up here starting, I believe it's April 1st. Okay, here it is. This was from Google themselves. And like I said, I'll drop links to all this stuff down in the description. It says, since we've implemented these authentication requirements with these Gmail addresses, we've seen the number of unauthenticated messages Gmail users receive plummet by 75%. And so, like I said, what they're doing is they're ramping this up. So starting on April 1st, this is going to become a lot more strict. Now, do this for themselves, or you could just go ahead and pull up the link that's shown on there. So for example, let's say I wanted to check Forbes.com. So if you go over to this MX toolbox and you click on blacklists, you can go over here. Now, if you have been sending out bad emails, what will happen is eventually you will start noticing your domain will show up as being blocked on some of these blacklists here. So once you start getting more than, like, let's say 5 of these, that's where you really need to start paying attention. It means that there's something you're doing that is an issue that you need to dial back on or fix. And once you get to that point, what you really need to do is just back off and let the domain cool down and get off those lists. Because if you give it some time to get removed off those lists, it'll be fine. But sometimes if you keep taking things too far, is you can just permanently damage it. Now, I also said, so it says checking Forbes.com, which results to this IP address here. So let's say you go to set up a Google Workspace address. They are going to assign you an IP address. So that will be shown up in the header of the email address, for example. Now, the next tool that you can use is this mailtester.com. So once you have SPF, DMARC, DKIM, you can send a test email to here. So you'd send it to this email address, then click check your score. It's going to tell you if all of the authentication methods are set up properly. And it will also do other stuff like let you know if there's any issues with the email that you sent out, like if the wording is bad. Now, what I recommend for checking the wording on emails is to just come over to the Mail Meteor Spam Checker. Again, these are all linked with that notepad. I'll pull it back up here in a second. Now, if you're sending custom emails, this isn't so much of an issue, but I recommend that anytime you send out a custom email, you just paste it in here, check the wording of your email, and clean it up regardless. So unnatural, so it's like dear friend. This is not something that you would ever send to people. That's just unnatural, so you'd want to remove that. Anything that's pink, orange, or red, you need to get that out of there. So there's all these words here. You can't see it here. So urgency, shady, overpromise, and unnatural. What you need to do is make sure you get all of these words taken out of there. And when the email is good to go, it'll be green and it will say good. That means that email is good to send and that there's no words in there that could potentially trip a spam filter. Now, it's not a guarantee that your email won't go to spam. If you're doing a bunch of other ridiculous stuff with your domain, then it could destroy your domain anyway. So it just means that you have to be a little creative when you write your email. So for example, one of the common phrases that you'll say when you're trying to talk to someone and get them on a sales call is, oh, you can click here to book a call. Now, if you send this through a cold email, you can see here, this is considered a shady word. This is something that email providers look at, and it's suspicious, and it can damage your emails over time when you're sending these. Now, again, this is not a guarantee that it's going to be sent to a spam folder, but if you send enough of these, chances are it's going to hurt things. Now, this applies to cold email. If you have already started a communication chain with someone, they've responded back to you, you two are talking back and forth, then it's okay to do things like send a link to a calendar, or to say things like, oh, if you click here, you can book in a call. Then it's fine, but for cold emails, you really need to avoid sending stuff like this. This just these poorly worded emails. And like I already mentioned, if you get on block lists, just make sure you let the domain cool down. It'll take a while. This is why you need to have backup domains. So if you're doing cold email marketing campaigns, if you haven't already done this, you need to do it. You should have like let's say 3 to 6 different domains that you can use. If you're a large company, someone probably already has it taken care of, and they probably have a whole bunch of different domains, or they have account managers that help them keep this stuff under control. But once you notice yourself get on a few block lists, it's really important to just stop sending emails, let it cool down, and then just start using a different provider. And it may take a few months as well, just so you're aware. These do not get cleared out right away. Anyway, that was a lot of information to cover. I hope you got something out of this video. If you have any questions on any of this stuff, because I know that there's a lot of information that I cover in these videos. If there's anything you're not sure of, if there's any questions that you have, go ahead and drop those down in the comment section. I will answer them as best as I can. And with all that being said, I appreciate the support as always, and I will see you next Friday.